Hey folks, Pops here, and today we're going to dive into StilL 630's X9, which is the ninth release in their experimental collection. But before we do that, I have a question for you. Can you tell me what mesquite, apple, and cherry all have in common? You think you know the answer? Well, let's get into the review and you'll find out. The question was, what does mesquite, apple, and cherry all have in common? If you guessed they're types of wood that are used to smoke single malts, you'd be absolutely correct. And if you've been following our reviews of StilL 630's experimental collection, you would know that we've already reviewed two single malts that were smoked with applewood and mesquite. This week with the X9, we finally are getting around to cherrywood. And for those of you who are a fan of other whiskeys that have used cherrywood, this will be of a special interest to you. Real quick, the stats on this one. Once again, aged in a 15-gallon barrel with a number 3 char. This one for around 16.25 months. So for those of you who are mathematically challenged, that's 16 months and a week. And once again, it is bottled at a wonderful 100 proof, like all of the other experimental collection releases to date. So enough of the specs, let's go ahead and dive into this one. Oh wow, on the nose, it's nice, it's smoky. The smoke blends well with the small barrel, the young age, that spice, oakiness that comes together. It's kind of smell you want to envelop you, in the fall when you're around a campfire. It's that kind of aroma. But in there you get notes of vanilla and some maple. The maple's really coming through, and I'm digging that. Okay, well, let's dive into that. Okay, up front, nice, sweet as it coats the tongue. Very pleasant. Sweet vanilla, honey coming off the tip there, and then quickly enveloped with that smokiness coming from that cherry wood. Unfortunately, it's almost like you're going from the front of your palate immediately to the finish, to the back. Not a lot happening in the middle. Let's make sure I'm getting that right. Yeah, I'm surprised. I was looking for, or I should say I was expecting a little bit more complexity in this one, but it's come across a little one-dimensional, a little flat. Now, that doesn't mean it's not balanced. It doesn't mean it doesn't taste good. It just, some of those flavor transitions that I was expecting based on previous releases feels like it's missing a little bit. I think the best way to sum it up is it tastes good, but it just feels incomplete. Now, not a distiller myself. I've tasted lots of whiskeys. I don't know if this is something that would be rectified, to use a word, by keeping it in the barrel longer, maybe adding some more proof in the bottle, not watering it down so much. So that could be a fun way to taste it at a higher proof. And I do know that when it comes to single malts and things more in the Scotch style with smoke, I prefer them at a higher proof. So once again, this could be my flavor preferences and my palate shining through a little bit. Your mileage may vary a little bit. But once again, that's one of the great things about whiskey, right? Is two people, two opinions, two different experiences. After having a couple sips, I think that also there's a little bitterness of that small barrel wood coming through. Yeah, it's not super tannic. It's not like drying my mouth out, but it's just a little bit of bitterness coming through that I don't want anywhere in my whiskey, to be frank. So, hey, experimental collection. The word experimental is in there for a reason. These are things that Dave and his team are trying every month. and trying to gauge consumer reaction to what do you like, what do you don't like, where there's improvement. And this is why every month he asks people who had a chance to taste the whiskeys to go online and provide feedback. Last month's release I really liked. I really dug it and would have loved to see it aged in a 53-gallon barrel. This one could be more proof added to it, could be longer in a barrel. Any other thing, once again, it's not bad. It's got great balance for being young, but it's just missing something for me. And I do believe, and Dave, you can call me out on this, that he had done a special collaboration a while back that had cherrywood in it, and or as a component whiskey, and that overall product I really, really liked. This one is just the only component for the whiskey I think is just falling short from a depth of flavor, complexity to it. So once again, maybe a great blend whiskey to do something in the future. Maybe a few more tweaks to make it its own product. I'll leave that up to Dave and his team and wait for the results to come out. But definitely worth giving a try to it. So if you weren't able to get down to the last event and get your hands on this one, I'd still do it. I'd still spend the money and buy it, add it to your collection, and taste it, especially if you've got the mesquite and the applewood smoked versions. It'd be a great little flight to do with you and maybe a couple friends. And once again, in St. Louis here, we're still getting some chilly nights and getting a little bit of snow in the forecast. These types of whiskey with the smoke undertones and aromas to it are great things to sip on in that type of weather. And even if it doesn't have the complexity, to be perfectly honest, it's better than some of the other young whiskeys that are being released and sold as non-experimental. So something to be said for that. Well, that's it for this release, which is the X9, and shortly we'll be getting the X10 for the month of April. We look forward to bringing our thoughts and feelings on that to you. But as always, until then, my friends, please drink curious.